Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 21 of D.A.R.C, or Does Anyone Really Care? The mini review series where I'm just doing a quick evaluation of certain cars which people in general on Gran Turismo 6 seem to overlook. Maybe you've bought one of these in the past but you forgot it was in your garage, maybe you just haven't used it in ages, or maybe like me, you just haven't bought some of these cars before because you just more or less assumed that they probably wouldn't be any good. Now with this car, for me, this is certainly the case because I only bought this car recently. It's the 1999 Hyundai Tiburon Turbulence. Tiburon is the Spanish word for shark, I learned when I was reading up about this car. I was actually reading it on the game, incidentally, in the information about the car. And basically, I've never really liked this car, to be honest. It's not that I don't like Hyundais. There are certain Hyundais which I do like. I really like the Hyundai Genesis, for instance. But this car's just never done it for me. In fact, to be honest, none of the cars of this type have ever done it for me. The Celica, the Ford Kuga, the Hyundai Coupe, and this one, the Tiburon. Just cars like that, those low-level, in my opinion, kind of cheap-looking, nasty little coupes. I just don't like them. For the most part, I think they look cheap and tacky. They have style which looks as though they're trying to be more than they are. I know that's the whole point of the car, but I don't like that. And I just don't like them. Plus, the majority of them are front-wheel drive, which I also do not like. So, for the longest time, I just didn't bother to buy this car. In its standard form, the power is not impressive at all, to be honest. It's around the 150 region, so, you can get far better. But I thought, hey, you know what, let's just try it out. It might be okay. And as it turns out, it is okay. It's not going to beat a Le Mans prototype anytime soon, but it is actually a very decent little car. Now, it's very cheap. It's only 14,000 credits for this particular model, which is very good. It's cheaper than a lot of the hot hatches and that kind of thing that's on the game. And fully tuned, it's actually a very decent little car. Now, like with most of the cars in this series, I haven't recorded its official specs like top speed or anything like that. But fully tuned, it sits at 512 pp, which feels maybe a little bit too high, but about right really for this car. It produces 377 horsepower, which is pretty decent. It weighs in at a respectable 1,055 kilos, so for a moderately sized coupe, it is quite light, lighter than it looks, and actually driving it, it actually feels even lighter than that. To drive it, and I'm being completely honest here, I'm not overselling this, it feels like it weighs 700 kilos. And I'm dead serious, it feels way lighter than 1,055 kilos. And as we said, it costs 14,000 credits. It's actually just over, but 14,000 credits. So apparently it seems pretty good value for money. But what's it like to drive? Because obviously specs on paper can't tell you what a car is like to drive. And it's front wheel drive, so what's the point in having all that power if you can't put it down, or if you have excessive understeer or torque steer? Well, actually, it performs really well for a front wheel drive car. There is hardly any understeer at all, and I mean like none, virtually. It handles amazingly well. Far better than I ever expected it to be honest. It actually handles better than many of the so-called supercars or sports cars that are on this game. It's so easy to drive and so fast to drive as well. It's really drivable, which is a great selling point, really. The brakes are excellent as well. There's tons of grip, and the torque steer and wheel spin off the line are very minimal, because although it does have quite a bit of power, the length of the car and the fact that most of its weight is over the front end does pretty much counter almost all of that wheel spin. So the wheel spin off the line is actually very minimal. And although I personally don't really like the appearance, I don't really like, in particular, the bug-eyed headlights is what I don't like. But overall, my personal bias aside, it's not a bad looking car. It looks pretty decent from the back. Looks kind of like a Celica, that kind of shape to it. So you know, it's not an ugly car, it's just not my personal cup of tea. But overall, would I recommend that you give this car a go? I definitely would. I mean, it's so cheap that you can afford to waste the money if you end up not liking it. But it's brilliant for front-wheel drive racing. The handling, trust me, if you haven't driven it, the handling is amazingly good. Like, one of the best I've driven good. The performance is, like we said, not record-breaking, but quick enough for it to do a good lap and quick enough to complement the already really good handling, grip and brakes. And overall, for a 14 grand car, the value for money is excellent. Plus, you have the bonus point that because it's a kind of cheap looking little Hyundai, you have that sleeper or Q car value to it where people don't expect it to be as good as it is. I mean, I didn't before I bought it. So you've got that added surprise factor when you beat people in races with it. And if you're anything like me, you love that. So overall, I would strongly recommend that you give this car a try. You will not regret it. And that's it, really, for this episode. So see you next time. And as always, thanks for watching.